Going live. What's up? What's up, people? The Brewers win. It's Sunday afternoon. You know, there ain't much else to do other than let's talk some Packers. So I thought I'd jump on here and see what's on with you fine folks. As I'm sure I've had a couple of dead streams at this point because my iPad doesn't like me. So, yeah, so much for that ancient iPad and your nonsense. But what's up, David? Thanks for jumping on. Bob, hello. Ty, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, you know, hell, a little extra cheese here on Sunday afternoon. So, you know, what else are you going to do? I know True Detective to look forward to on Sunday nights anymore, so I'll chat with you fine folks. What's up, Ben? How are you? Such a beautiful day in New York City. Martin, you're right. Today was freaking gorgeous. I had brunch by myself. It was lovely. After dropping my daughters off in the morning, I had the afternoon to myself. Nags, hello from Austria. What's up, Philip? Thanks for checking in, man. Curious, there's a lot of talk about what the Packers' tendencies are. Do you think this still holds true even with all the changes in the front office? David, that's a good question. I think you're referencing draft tendencies. Yeah, I think the thresholds still remain the same just because of who's doing the choosing. I mean, when you look at the history behind Ted Thompson, Ron Wolf, et cetera, the entire kind of tree lineage, et cetera, that's where Ryan Gutekunst comes from, right? So while I don't think you can completely lock him in, it sure would appear, especially if you look at the first draft, the athletic thresholds that Ron Wolf set, for the most part, I think remain a guideline. Although I will say Jair Alexander did come in underneath the height threshold that Ron Wolf had set for cornerbacks after the Terrell Buckley experiment exploded in his face. So I don't think you can ever say things are locked in, so to speak. But I do think the guidelines remain. And I do think Gutekunst, and that's something I asked him about last year, I think he will try to adhere to them as best he can. How will LaFleur handle things tomorrow, Nick? That's a very good question. Well, don't forget, you know, they're not doing football tomorrow. The most they can do tomorrow is strength and conditioning. It's simply getting guys in the building, getting them started in the program, of which there can only be strength and conditioning. They're not allowed to talk X's and O's. But, you know, LaFleur can address the team clearly, and I do think it will be interesting to hear if anything does come out of that first meeting. But for the most part, I think it'll be pretty benign. You know, starts of the off-season program, it's going to go slow. And it's not like he has to make any bold proclamations right out of the gate. Nags, do you think that was a bad joke that Rodgers said to 49ers about Jennings? Julian, you're referencing Rodgers talking to an opponent during a game about Greg Jennings the year he was up for a new contract. Yeah, I'm sure he was being facetious. I wasn't there. I don't know. Jennings clearly read it as a slight. Tom Crabtree took to Twitter yesterday or 2 days ago to infer that it was a joke. I don't know. I mean, I would assume, having met Aaron in passing on occasion and knowing his dry sense of humor, yeah, I think he probably was joking, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. I can't say. Where's the super chat button? Dustin, that's a great question. You can ask Google and or YouTube if you can ever get through to a human being, because Corey and I have been trying forever to get this channel to be able to enable super chat, to monetize it, etc. But for some reason, every time we apply, we get denied. We've taken off every single bit of copyrighted material that ever may have been placed on this channel at one point or another throughout the last 10 plus years. And still, we keep getting denied. I keep trying to get an answer, and I can't find a human being at Google to talk to. So if you know anyone at Google here in New York or out in Silicon Valley, please kick them in the face for me, or talk to them about Cheesehead TV. Yo, Nags, Sunday hot takes. Here's my Sunday hot take. Beer is good. Anonymous sources say you and Corey can't stand each other. Ooh, Bob, coming in hot on Sunday. I love Corey Banke. He's my brother. And your anonymous sources need to stop yammering. I think they have the same agents as Greg Jennings and Jermichael Finley. Will the entire coaching staff be present tomorrow? Pettin, Hackett? Yes, John. Everybody will be in attendance. Is Pettin the main guy in charge of defense? Yes, Ismail. He is most definitely the head of the defensive side of the ball. Nags, what do you think "Don't Be the Problem" was about? That's a very good question. All right. I love my boy Ty. I love Ty. But how in the hell does he have what Mark Murphy said to Aaron Rodgers on the phone when Murphy called? I mean, I can't imagine after this week's article that he's close to Aaron, and I can't imagine that he's close to Mark. So who does he have that has that line? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do I think it's about? Don't gum up the works, maybe. Don't be a head case, etc. I have no idea. But how the hell does he get that? I would love to know. I mean, apparently Aaron told somebody or Mark told somebody, and that somebody told somebody who told Ty. Man, I don't know, man. That's in an article where you're quoting DeJuan Harris. You have Mark Murphy and Aaron Rodgers' private phone conversation? I don't know. Nays, what receiver do you want to select in the first round or the second round? A.J. Brown. How about that? Tom Grossi about to surpass Cheesehead TV. How's he going to do that? I mean, he can have all the YouTube subscribers he wants, but you put YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram all together, good luck. Who would you rather have, Hakeem Butler or N'Keal Harry? Hakeem Butler. News on Gunter, any contract talks? Steven, nothing yet. There's nothing been reported. I haven't heard anything. I think Gunter would be an excellent addition. I think he makes a heck of a lot of sense, and he definitely fits in with the types of players they've signed in free agency this offseason. But no word as of yet. Now, we could wake up tomorrow morning and find out that he's there and in attendance, but we'll find out. I don't understand how does EQ run a route called by McCarthy when 12 calls the play? That's a really good question in regards to something that Ty reported with Equiminius St. Brown being frustrated because he wanted to run the routes that Mike calls, but he also had heard that Aaron Rodgers had frozen guys out, and so he wanted to run what Aaron ran, etc. Now, look, when a play comes in and it gets said in the huddle, so to speak, you have a set route tree, right? You have a set route combination, especially on one side or the other. And so if the initial call is, 89 or 72 or whatever their numeric system might be, one of those numbers or one of those calls tells EQ what he's supposed to do, right? So the initial call, when Aaron says it in the huddle, is XB 4879. And the 9 may tell him, okay, you're supposed to run a flag. But then apparently what Rodgers did that play was EQ, yo, either in the huddle or maybe on the way to the line of scrimmage, etc. Yo, no, don't run the flag, run a post. For however he might have done that. Or maybe he gave him a hand signal. It's possible that they get to the line of scrimmage, Rodgers reads the coverage and gives him a hand signal to run the post. So now EQ is like, wait a second, I know what the call is, but Rodgers is telling me to run this, so he runs that. I mean, there's so much that goes into, and that's something that we talked about last offseason, where receivers in college, they run 6, maybe 7, 8 at most kind of variations of a route or of a combination of a set routes. And last year, we were talking to a couple of the rookies and the wide receivers coach about the fact that, you come, from Notre Dame, say, where you have the 7 or 8 combos of a certain route. And then you get to the NFL, and there are literally 50 to 75 different variations, dependent on the coverage, dependent on how things roll one side or the other, to how the cornerback reacts to you, how the safety reacts, etc. There's all sorts of things. And that's why what I'm always talking about when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and seeing the field and the coverage and having receivers that read it the same way. People talk about Geronimo Allison. The reason Geronimo Allison gained Aaron's trust so early, like his rookie year when he was an undrafted kid, is because he read coverages the same way that Rodgers did in real time. It's one thing to like get the play call, okay, this is my assignment, but then to make the adjustments in real time after you come off the line of scrimmage, you see that safety roll, you see that cornerback give you the inside leverage, say he opens up his hips, that tells you, okay, I've got the inside. And if the safety rolls over the top, you know you can square in. That should put you into a soft spot of the zone if you read zone. If you're reading that the same way Aaron is, he's going to find you. And he's going to trust that you're going to do that time in and time out. And these are the, really kind of idiosyncratic, these small kind of details that are really kind of hard to describe, but that's what goes into each play, right? And that's what, like Jeff Janis, you could tell him to run a post route. Yeah, he'll run a post route. But his ability to read coverages the same way Aaron did just never materialized. And that's why he was never really Aaron's guy. Aaron never really trusted him. Now, some of this, and I think a lot of this, could and probably will change now that they have a new head coach, a new offensive system, and a new way of working. A lot of the stuff that Mike McCarthy was asking these guys to do, and this has been written about a whole heck of a lot, mostly by my buddy Doug Farrar, whose book you should read about offensive football. But, a lot of what Mike McCarthy asked these guys to do was isolation routes, guys who just had to win their one-on-ones. And while they were doing so, they had to read the defenses the same way. So I think with LaFleur, he's already mentioned when he was on the podcast with the guys from around the league, he mentioned a lot of more reduced kind of formations. Formation, Mike McCarthy had a lot of spread stuff. LaFleur is going to run a lot more compact, not power necessarily, but more kind of between the hash kind of formations. And I would suspect you're going to see a lot more rub routes. You're going to see a lot more bunches. You're going to see a lot more drags, etc. Stuff that allows guys to come open without having to read stuff, without having to count on being able to, read what the defensive back is doing and try and work open. You're going to see a lot more kind of natural picks, and that stuff that gets guys into space and allows Aaron to just pick them apart and work upfield. So that's a long way of saying there's a lot that goes into it. And I totally get why EQ might have been frustrated. And it's funny because if I was going back and I was watching some of the season yesterday and today because of that very quote. And if you notice, it's after that New England game. And I got to think because EQ clearly talked to his position coach about it, EQ starts getting worked into the offense more after that game. You look at the Minnesota game, he catches a bunch of balls in that game. One in particular where Aaron kind of works up in the pocket and throws it even before he makes his break. So I have to think that at some point they had not maybe a sit down, come to Jesus, whatever, but I have to think that Aaron said, okay, I understand. Maybe you're frustrated. Maybe here's what I'm thinking, et cetera. Because it sure seems after that game last year, they got on the same page in a way they weren't prior to that New England game. Odds that LaFleur recognizes Jones as a skill set you could run a fun offense through and actually pulls that trigger. Kyle, I mean, okay. Again, in the podcast with Around the League, he's asked about Aaron Jones. How do you feel? And something I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, do you like him or whatever? And he said, oh, yeah. And then he quickly says, but I've always said we have to have multiple backs. I think he recognizes the skill set. I don't think you're ever going to see a 25 to 30 touch set from Aaron Jones as far as week in and week out. I don't think that'll ever be his thing. I do think he'll get more opportunities under LaFleur. I don't know how, exponentially more, but I do think he'll get more looks than he got under McCarthy. But hey, at the same time, you can't deny McCarthy's thing about, okay, we're going to rotate backs because we got to keep these guys healthy, specifically keep Aaron Jones healthy. I mean, the guy had 3 significant injuries in the course of 15 to 16 months. So there's something there. There's something to it. It's not like, oh, McCarthy's an idiot just for trying to not utilize the guy. The guy did utilize him quite a bit down the stretch, and then he got hurt again. So I don't think he's ever going to be your workhorse, so to speak. Who you see taking in the first round? Ben, good question. I don't think Ed Oliver is going to make it to 12. I hope he does, and I hope the Packers take him. That said, I could see Devin, one of the linebackers, whether it's White or Bush, Hockenson maybe. I doubt they take a tight end at 12, but you never know. It depends on how they have him slotted as far as the tier system goes. But there are going to be plenty of really talented players available at 12. I just hope at some point in the first 2 days, I hope they take an offensive lineman, because I still think they need to kind of shore up the offensive line and the safety position. To me, those are the two glaring needs. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to take them early, but they've got to address them in this draft. Oh my God, just not a tight end at 12. Peter, if that's far and away the best graded player on their board, who cares? Okay, if they think Hockenson is Gronk, they absolutely should take him at 12. Whether you agree or not. I might not agree. I don't think he's Gronk. But if they think he's Gronk, 1,000,000,000% they should take him at 12. Who cares what his position is? You want the best players on your team, especially at that premium position. I mean, I get it if tight end, whatever, but if it's far and away, if he's graded here and everybody else on their board is down here, but they go, oh, we've got it, we can't take a tight end. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You want difference makers on your team, regardless of position. I love lamp. Yeah, well, I missed the lamp. That's the outside brick wall across the way from me. How would you feel if we traded down and got Jerry Tillery, assuming Oliver and Hawk are gone? Again, who else is on the board? I wouldn't love trading down and passing up one of those linebackers. But hell, if they trade down and get another first out of it, I'm not going to complain. Tillery's look. I don't want to dismiss Tillery because I think he's got a big upside. I don't think he's going to be as good a player as Oliver, but I do think the upside is definitely there for him to be a very, very good NFL player. So I'm not going to be upset about it. Are you doing a live stream draft day? Yes, Michael. For the first round, Thursday night, we'll be live in the studio. It'll be myself, Corey, and a couple friends. I'm still working on it. We'll see. This should be fun, whoever it is. But we'll be live through the entire first night. The second night, on Friday night, for rounds 2 and 3, it'll be Andy Herman and his merry band of misfit draftniks. He did it last year, where he had a bunch of people on a Google Hangout. So he'll be doing that because it's much more, you get past the first round and you get down to, especially that third round, you get down to players that, frankly, I don't know a hell of a lot about, but Andy and his people will. And then Saturday, we won't have a live stream, but I will be at Kettle of Fish in the Village, the Packers bar. And I'll be watching the draft all afternoon. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be drinking beer. I'll be hanging out with whoever wants to come down. And then whenever the Packers pick, I'll go live and give my thoughts. So we'll have something for you video-wise all 3 days. And then that Saturday night, the 27th, I'll be DJing. So stop on by New York if you're around. Oren Burks. None of us mocked him last year nor wanted him. Astute observation, Brian. Nice. Do you think Trey Boston makes sense for the Pack? On paper, yes. There's clearly something there in the sense that he's going to be on his now third team, I believe, in the last 3 years. I just think there's got to be something locker room wise that people are shying away from. And I can't imagine Gutekunst going out of his way to bring that in to his own locker room when he spent the last year getting rid of malcontents, basically. I could be way off, but that's the only thing I can think of why teams are staying away. How much longer till the draft? I'm getting tired of all this pre-draft stuff. Sebastian, thank you. Could not agree more. Used to be the draft was already done by this point, but now they've pushed it back. Remember, a couple years ago they had it in May. That freaking sucked. That sucked. Now they finally pushed it back up into late April, but man, I'm with you. I hate it. I hate all this. The NFL wants to make it as long as possible. They want to stay in the headlines and blah, 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 make it a 365 thing. I hate it. I hate it so much. The draft industrial complex is so ridiculous at this point. I'm with you, man. We could have had the draft 3 weeks ago. When I watch PFF video, the way they talk about knowing who they've predicted to be good and were right makes me think they are better than any NFL team. I mean, PFF has a good track record. I like those guys. I think they do a good job. But of course, they're going to highlight their hits. It's not like they're putting together a highlight reel of their misses, of which there are a few. Of course, that's their job. They're supposed to pump themselves up. And hey, there are a ton of teams that do use them. Now, the way they sell that is, we work with 30 NFL teams or whatever. Yeah, because they do a great job of and I do that. I message them all the time, Steve and Sam and those guys. If I want to know, I remember specifically when I think it was coming into Julius Pepper's final year, I wanted to know how many times they lined Peppers up on the interior and how many times they lined him up outside. They have that split like that. So yeah, NFL teams pay for that kind of information just so they don't have to do it themselves. It's great. But the idea that NFL team personnel groups are paying for their grades, nah, chief. They do that themselves. Possibility of bringing back Hayward. I would say remote. But you never know. How about you talk about Mike being in his office when he should have been at practice? I love that this has been turned into a thing. Who cares? I mean, really. Because by all accounts, this was when they were 15-1. If you were 15-1 and had the most highly prolific offense in the league and had just won a Super Bowl, would you be in your office getting a massage or would you be at a walkthrough? Because I know where I'd be. And I'd be doing it with the Lombardi trophy on my desk. That's just me. But hey, you want to be mad about it? Be mad about it. It's cool. Will the Packers draft a kicker or bring in competition for Crosby? Mark, I would suspect they bring in competition. I don't think they'll draft one. But if they do, I hope we have a live shot of Corey Banke when it happens. But no, I do think they will bring in competition. I don't think there's any doubt. You saw last year, Crosby had his issues, man. I mean, you can't put it any other way but that. He cost him that Detroit game. He had a big miss, would have won them the Arizona game. You can't deny it. That said, I don't think they're going to push him out the door. I think if someone comes into camp and actually takes that job, that's a possibility. But I don't think they're just going to give it away, and I don't think they're going to push him out the door. I do think they're going to give him every opportunity to retain the job. Outside of drafting a tight end, who do you think Green Bay will use a lot during the season, Graham or Lewis? Well, Eric, finances would tell you Graham, right? I mean, they are paying Graham a pretty penny. And no matter how well Lewis does, say, in camp, practice, etc., it's hard to justify paying Graham all that money and then keeping him on the sideline for the majority of the time. I mean, I love Lewis as a player. I hope he gets back to being kind of the wrecking ball he was his last year in Jacksonville when he was by far and away the best blocking tight end in the league. He really kind of slipped last year. I hope that's just because of the way and he was used and the lack of, basically attempts he got. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. There's no way you can pay Graham what you're paying him and then not put him on the field. I just think it's not going to happen. Can we move on from the last 2 years? New team. David, I hear you, and I agree. I said a couple days ago, this is like the last Jedi time for me. Move on. It's time to go. kill the past. Kill it if you have to, right? Okay, McCarthy's tenure is over. It's run its course. We've dissected the body now. It's a new team. I get that, but that's not truly going to happen until after this draft and then probably training camp. Once training camp comes and you see LaFleur day in and day out, and they've got a new kind of voice in the ecosphere, so to speak, then I think that will officially turn the page. But until then, we're going to talk about it a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Worst QB play you have seen for the Packers? Kaiser, Hundley, Tolzien, Rich Campbell, Blair Keel, Anthony Dilwig, or TJ Rubley? Whoo, that is a murderer's row right there, Brian. It's a toss-up for me between Kaiser and Rubley. Because, God darn it, Kaiser was bad, man. Kaiser was bad. Kaiser made Hundley look good, and that's tough to do. Hopefully, Hackett will reinvigorate Lewis. Yeah, well, I hope so. I talked to Hackett at the Combine. We had a great chat about Star Wars. That cat is all right in my book. He is a Star Wars nerd through and through. Good people. Goot needs to find a mauler of a guard in the draft. Sean, okay. Yes, I love the idea of a people mover, but, hey, number one priority in Green Bay is always going to be protecting the franchise, protecting Aaron Rodgers. Maulers are great, but if they can be taken advantage of in the passing game, I gotta downgrade them a little bit. I hear what you're saying, though. I love the idea of just being able to run over people. I'll take a guard who is maybe not a little less of a mauler and more of a technician and able to get people on the ground, play in and play out, and still can hold up in pass pro. That's just me, but I totally understand what you're saying. Why do you think Sue is still out there? Andrew, don't forget, last year he was out there for a while too. I think he'll wait. He'll pick his spots. Maybe he could even wait till after the draft or even till camp, wait for an injury or two. I don't think he's in any rush. I do think he'll sign and I got to admit, he played better down the stretch last year than I had seen him play in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think he's still got it. Do I think he's got a place in Green Bay? That's a bit of a stretch, but never say never. You don't look like a person who has an 18-year-old child. I'll take that as a compliment. Nags, what year should the Packers select a QB? Next year. Don't ever forget Brett Favre stepped on Lambeau Field wearing a Vikings uniform. He did, but it's okay. Look, as I wrote in the New York Times, I just love saying that. I really wasn't in the Times. I was on the Times website, but I did write it. Favre was like an older brother, right? Like you loved him, and then he did something that pissed you off. That was his time with the Vikings. Like, okay, I love you, brother, but now we got to kick your ass. And that's what we did that last game in Lambeau, which I was in attendance for when Desmond Bishop brought back that pick six. Favre walked off a loser in a Vikings uniform. It's all love, baby. Nothing but love. Nags, while you were covering the team, did you sense any kind of dysfunction in the locker room? No, not at all. It was funny, though, because I was there when Mike Daniels had his outburst after the Colts game. And I do know some stuff came out after that about guys kind of tuning him out, etc. As far as Rodgers goes, no, nothing. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. And I do love that this keeps coming up in regards to Greg Jennings and Jermichael Finley, etc. Look, Rodgers has rubbed some people the wrong way. Nothing wrong with that. Obviously Ty goes to them because it's an angle or whatever. I do find it interesting that he didn't go to Randall Cobb. He didn't go to John Kuhn. He didn't go to Tom Crabtree. He didn't go to all these guys who are on the record saying how much they love Aaron Rodgers or James Jones, etc. He went back to the same two people for the same quotes. That's fine. I love that he got Ryan Grant. I love that Ryan went on the record. And Ryan wasn't 100%, blowing smoke up Aaron's ass, but he, I thought the artificial intelligence thing was great. I thought that was actually the most perfect kind of summation of Rodgers' time in Green Bay so far. But yeah, as far as Rodgers goes, yeah, nothing. I mean, yeah, he wants to win. Mike wanted to win. Outside of that, it's a lot of smoke. Ryan Grant was great. I agree. Skip Bayless is why America is failing. Aaron, I got a list of 20,000 things above Skip Bayless, but that's for another stream. We should get the inside linebacker from the Jets, Deron Lee. No, thank you, Brian. Nah, I mean, I'd just rather draft somebody. Why go spend a draft pick for a guy who got all sorts of bad habits and you got to teach all your new things? No, go draft your own guy. Bring him up through your system. Will Murphy comment on "Don't be the problem"? Jeffrey, I'll be shocked if he's available anytime soon, but you never know. He's been talking a whole lot this offseason, so maybe. But I tend to doubt it. I think they will allow things to take their course. Now, that said, you got to think either tomorrow or the next couple days, Aaron Rodgers will be available, and you got to imagine that question will be asked. Did Mark say? I can't wait for him to be asked that, by the way, because Aaron's going to say, "Oh, it's ridiculous, it's crap, whatever." I can't wait to hear how he dismisses it. But I think Aaron will be asked about it, but I can't imagine Mark will be available anytime soon. Anything on Rodney Guntner? No. Salty, I was asked about that earlier, and no, haven't heard anything. We could show up tomorrow and hear that he's signed, but as of now, nothing has come from the visit, either reported or that I've heard. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. I'll be back probably every day this week. I can't promise it'll be every day, but I will be close to every day this week. It won't be the regular Packers Daily because Corey and company are all in Vegas for a conference, and I'm going to be in the studio by myself. So it'll probably be like this, only in the studio. I'll just be hanging out. But I will be live pretty much every day this week. Thanks so much. Make sure you're checking out everything we do. Hey, subscribe to the channel. I want to get to 20,000 subscribers by the draft. We got like 3 weeks to get this done. Tell your friends, tell your family. Every day we're talking Packers. We're doing what we do. Check out cheeseheadtv.com. If you haven't checked out the draft guide, that just dropped on Friday. 189 pages of goodness is dedicated to Packers fans. It's a Packer draft guide just for Packers fans, just for you guys. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.